So, namaste to one and all here. So, I am very happy to be a part of this program. Thanks for the organizers. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me. This I will keep it very, very short. So, I am going to talk to you about the need for bringing out some classic works. By classic works, we mean in the tradition, suppose you are familiar, if you are familiar with literature, so Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha, it's a classic work. So, some such thing, I mean in today's parlance, if you want to say, if you are computer science students, the work of Donald Knuth, The Art of Computing, this is considered as a very classic work. So, something along these lines. Before I proceed, I want to show you, for you to have a feel as to how the texts have been transmitted to us, which many of you would not have an occasion to see. Huh? ये क्या करना है, राइट ही करना है ना? हाँ, वो कर रहा हूँ. Nothing. Right? Okay. Okay. See, look at this. This is one of the fairly well maintained paper manuscripts where people have been writing. So, there is no scope for you to just cut and then do, etc. So, that kind of a thing. So, this is how people have been writing out. So, here if you look at, so it may not be very easy for even those who are quite familiar with Devanagari to quickly figure out what is being written. And you may not even find any para breaks and so on, so they will just keep writing. So, this is the way one of the manuscript looks like. Today, so we use all these devices. So, A for Apple, B for Bluetooth, C for chat, D for download, email. So, it is only these things that we are sort of familiar with. You would not have an occasion to see even manuscripts. And earlier, so about 150 years ago, so this is a sort of sketch where you see this Bapudeva Shastri, so a famous traditional scholar as well as a mathematician. So, when he was teaching, people will be just like this, sitting and learning. So, nowadays people talk of attention span of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes and 1.2 seconds, I don't know. So, this is how things are being done today. On the other hand, even when I started learning, my grandfather used to teach 50 years back. So, we will just sit without any book, we will listen to what he says, we have to just repeat. And this will go for almost an hour. So, this is a certain ability that human beings are endowed with to carefully listen and retain things in mind, which is completely disappearing because of various intrusions of the devices. Devices as such need not be blamed, but we feel that these are not necessary. I have this device, I have even my own students. Nowadays, notes 20 years back when I joined IIT, they used to take notes. Aajkal, I mean, the slides have to be sent and they will just, click bhi hai, but we are supposed to send slides and therefore they don't even. So, this is another kind of a problem that we face. Anyway, now, so we have, this was shown to you only to tell you that when we need to get these things in the form of printed material or digital form today, what are the challenges that we face? That is the thing that I wanted to convey to you. So, just imagine, so there was a certain tradition where people have been, even before this paper medium was available, people have been composing. So, when Tyagaraja suddenly comes up with a song, so there may be some Sishyas who may be noting down, who may be listening, and then they immediately try to jot on, right? So, before even the medium was there, people have been creative and they have been composing various things. Now, these things have to be stored. So, at some point people had this medium to write. So in different places, different medium was there. Somewhere this birch bark will be used, somewhere. So even recently I went to this northeast. So they have a special plant where they will have some nice things coming out and they will write on that. Okay. Sachipat. So this is another thing. Now paper came after that. And even when paper were there, so my grandfather also, they did not have any other medium. I have seen his beautiful handwriting where they will try to copy Siksha Grantha from his own teacher and so on. So this is how somebody copies, the medium will not stay for more than 100, 150 years and therefore it has to be recopied and so on. When such things are being done, so initially from memory to some medium. So memory to some medium, there can be some error. And medium to medium, so it need not necessarily be copied by someone who is knowledgeable, but someone who has been assigned the task. And therefore, when this is done, if he is not careful, there are likely to be errors. Now, what happens in some places, there are conceptual errors, grammatical errors. So most of the things were composed in the form of poetic meters, and this metrical composition, some metrical requirements will not be satisfied. Sometimes you will find typographical, sometimes even verses will be missing. So something would have been left out by that fellow. So in such cases, what do? Omission and commission of words, this happens. Absence of clear demarcation of various sections, verses and so on. So some of them could have been avoided, whereas certain other problems, I will just tell you what happens when you try to bring out a certain edition from the manuscript. So that is the point I want to convey. I will just give you one example now. Here is a famous work. Any of you who have heard of the name of Varahamihira? Yes. What are the works that he has written? He was an astronomer, astrologer and a polymath. Okay. One of the remarkable works that he has authored is called Brihat Samhita. Okay. This Brihat Samhita, for the first time, it has come in the form of a book, paper edition. This happened in 1860s, okay. Almost 160 years back. So this is the opening verse, Jayati Jagatah Prasutir Vishwatma Sahaja Bhushanam Nabhasaha Dhruta Kanaka Sadrisha Dashashata Mayukhamala Chita Savita. Savita means sun. Okay, Savita means sun. At the beginning, one tries to pay some respect to one's own desired deity. So here he is praising Savita. And here says, Jagatah Prasutihi means Jagat. Jagat basically means this universe, and anything which is movable is also called Jagat. In fact, those who have studied a little bit of this mantras, Jagatas Tasthusascha Surya Atma, Jagatas Tasthusascha is a Vedic mantra. Jagataha means something which moves. Tasthushaha means that are stationary. So he is the Atma for all of them. Without sun's energy, nothing will happen in this universe anyway. So these things are very interesting. So he describes them. The point I wanted to convey here is, in all the editions which have been printed, we had Malarchitaha was there in printed editions. This Malarchitaha seems to be a problem here. Architaha means someone, you know, Architaha. What does it mean? Worship. Very good. Now, Mayukhamala, the word Mayukha means Kirana. Okay? Mayukhamarchitaha, there is a problem. Sun is being described. Okay? Architaha means worshipped by that will not work. But that has been the patha which was found in the Sa means Sudhakara Dwivedi's edition and another edition. But there was a bit of a problem. So, when we tried to look into this, so we had a bit of a problem, therefore we tried to find some other manuscript which can give a better reading. Fortunately, one of the manuscripts gave this Mala Chitaha. Now, there is a certain commentary also which is available for this work, where, so Professor MDS can easily see, so what he has done is, in the Sudhakara Dvive's edition, he will just put Tayar Chitaha. So now this Tayar Chitaha, but Utpala calls it as Vyaptaha. So Architaha and Vyaptaha, they never go together. So there is a bit of a problem. So Tayachitaha. So here this was detected. Once this was detected, we felt that there is something seriously wrong, and the manuscript really came to help. And I don't have time to elaborate on all these beautiful things that have been stated here, and we could sort of fix this. This is the first verse. So where there is a serious mistake in trying to understand this issue. Okay. I will just skip this. I will give you one more example. This is another verse which is the fourth verse in the text. This is a little more complicated. So we have to really pay our homage to all those people who have worked in these manuscripts to bring these editions for us. I mean, there may be errors, there may be various factors, but people do not really understand today the amount of effort that has gone in. So when Mahadevan was speaking or somebody else was speaking about this treasure, how was this handed over to us? So it was initially kept in memory by and large, and then there were some medium. And in fact, my own father said he did not have the second Veda book to study. My father can read the book from the other side very fast. Then I asked him, how do you do? He said, when I was a child, so my brother will keep it the other way, we sit opposite to each other and I see from here and therefore I can read from the other side. So what I am trying to say is that was the difficulty with which people have been trying to carefully preserve and transmit this knowledge. This is something which we need to understand and appreciate. Okay, now come to this verse. Kshitanaya divasavaraha na shubhayiti pitamaha prokte kujadina manishtamiti va kotra vishesho nridivya kritehe. This has an interesting message. We will not get into that. This is called Arya meter. So all this metrical composition, there are some constraints. Suppose you have this Saraswati Namastubhyam. Saraswati Namastubhyam. Varade Kama Rupini. Vidyarambham Karishyami. Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. All will have 8 syllables. So this is the kind of thing. But this is not a metrical composition where you count the syllable, but you count the matra. This is a special kind of a metrical composition. Now, if you look at this, this has to be satisfying certain count. If you just see Kshiti, Tanaya, Divasa, Varaha. Up to this, you will have 12 beats. After that, Nashubhayiti Pitamaha Prokte. If you read this, you will have 15. This will be actually Upagiti. If you have 12, 15, 12, 15, this is called Upagiti. If you have 12, 18, 12, 18, that is where we have this Giti. See, Vyase, Variti, Nihate, they will all be like that. Here, the reading that we found was Kshitita Naya Divasa Varaha Na Shubha Kriditi Pitamaha Prokte. So this is the reading we found. But when we counted this, see, those who are extremely familiar with something, so suppose he is a musician. So if the Kalyani Raga is being sung, so there is some error somewhere, he will immediately pick up. Right? Similarly, those who are acquainted with these meters, as you read, you will find that there is something wrong. This Shubhakrit actually puts it as 16. Instead of 12, 15, it makes it 16. But 16 is not possible. So therefore, what people have done is, in some editions, Shubhakriditi Yedi, they have just added it. See, Shubhakriditi Yedi Pitamaha Prokte. Then it will be 12, 18, 12, 15. It will fit the meter. But then what happens is, the meaning of Yedi doesn't match. So these two editions, so this Lahore edition and this edition, so they had this patha, whereas some other thing has this, but then that also was not of help. Then another manuscript had this patha, na shubhayiti pitamaha prokte. So that gives the perfect reading. So it meets the context, it gives the correct meaning, it also satisfies the metrical requirements. So the point I wanted to convey here is, whether I go through many slides or I can just to show you, unless you have several manuscripts with you and you have a very, very careful eye to ensure that the metrical requirements are also satisfied and the meaning is also fitting in, and this requires scholarship in multidisciplines. See, and a very, very careful thing. Okay, so there are various requirements that are essential for a scholar to engage in this kind of studies, and nowadays, so it is rare to find people who are able to engage themselves deeply. It is a very, very challenging job and time consuming job, so in which we need to train people. All that I wanted to say was, so reading these manuscripts is one thing, because many of them are yet to be brought in the form of books. So the kind of challenges that we will have is, so this, the point I wanted to make is, this is a very, very important work, Brihat Samhita, which is actually quoted by so many people, which are studied by people. And at some point, the first scholar, so who did, I will just show you towards the end of that. And there also there are various other pathas. Look at this. This at least you should see how they were writing. This is one of the manuscripts that we consulted. So this is Cambridge University Library. The entire Brihat Samhita is there in 12 folios. 12 folios, 24 pages. The entire Brihat Samhita. So this is how they have tightly written, you see. Where is danda, where is the break, nothing will be there. And they have sort of filled up. So every bit of the manuscript, this is where it will be going inside and coming out. So this is how people have been, see, the reason is, the medium was not available for them easily. So you have to minimize the space in which you have to pack the information. There you have to be extremely careful, so that, I mean, you don't jump from word to word. So from this, nowadays we have all sorts of media. So the other text, important text, is Ganita Kaumudi. I'll just take you very, very fast. I'll just slip all this because I have to go. And I just wanted to show you one or two things. Here again, there is some interesting thing. So this Acha Ganakanandakaram Sankshepat Ankapashakam Vakshye Niyatam Niyatam Matsaravanto Dushtaha Kuganakaye. This is one place. This Niyatam Niyatam, so one can try to interpret with a little difficulty. See, Ganakanandakaram means I am going to present to you a certain chapter. This Anka Pasha, basically it has to do with combinatorics. Okay, Anka Pasha is a combinatoric. Basically something which has to do number things. Anka Pashakam Vakshye means he is promising that I am going to elaborate to you the procedures that are involved in these combinatorics. Matsaravanto Dushtaha Kuganakaha Ye. See, Matsaravantaha means those who are sort of jealous, etc. See, Niyatam Niyatam, one can with difficulty try to do this, but see this Sudhakara Dwivedi's son, Padmakara Dwivedi, he says, Nipatanti Yatra. See, so this, he tries to make some sort of a speculation that this letter would have been interpreted this way. So this kind of a thing is also essential for you to guess what could have been written mistakenly in what form, what may be. So this kind of a guesswork in some places is essential, because if you do not have something. One more point which I wanted to tell you is, this I will leave, just see. Here, tvaritam amilatam te. So when you combine tan te, so tan te is also tan te. So there are mistakes which can happen. So where you try to combine, and if you try to break it improperly, the whole meaning will go wrong. This is one kind of. Another problem is, see, yat kokilang kulam. See, yat kokilanam kulam. So there will be metrical problem, one guru will be gone. So these are different kinds of problems that we encounter, and sometimes some number will be written as 30 instead of 36. These kind of problems will be there. This also is, I will leave this, and I want to show you one interesting thing. See, sometimes this kind of a thing issue will be there. See, so where same verses are just repeated with different numbers, this is a problem. Come here. This is an interesting exercise which me and my students were doing. What happened is, dvisame vapi trisame. See, if you think of a quadrilateral, four-sided, right? Dvisama means two sides are equal, right? So a rectangle can be considered as a dvisama, dvisama chaturashra. Trisama means three sides are equal. Trisama chaturashra, three sides are equal. This is another kind of a thing. Now he is giving some sort of a problem, okay? Vishama chaturashra means all four sides are different. Sama chaturashra means all four sides are one and the same, it is a square. Now the problem is, dvisame vapi trisame kathaya sakhe vetsi vadanadin. This is what is there. But where is the problem? What is the number? So the first half of the verse is gone, where the numbers were to be stated, that itself is gone. So they actually give the rule, and then they give a problem. This is how the text actually goes. And fortunately in the commentary, when he has worked it out, he said sukshma phalam, sthula phalam. So these two numbers have been given. So from this, we try to construct this. See, yedi chaturadhiko nashatam sthulam sukshmam phalam chaturbahau. So something like this should be there. If we are fortunate to get some manuscript which gives, otherwise, something like this has to be done in trying to get this work back to us. See, so this is an exercise which I knew this problem. Yesterday I was sitting with a student, and there are few more instances like this in the text, where half verse is missing. Okay, they have just copied and then they have left out. And this actually fits in. See, now what happens is, you have to take the number, you have to ensure that the metrical pattern also fits in, and it just gives the whatever problem that has to be posed is posed. So this is another kind of exercise that is required in trying to bring out these works. And there are a few other things. I think I will, this is the last slide, I will just quickly say. So where the scholars have expressed the difficulty which is involved. So if you look at this, so this 1865, I told you, this Hendrik Kern, who was a Dutch scholar, okay, Dutch Indologist, who spent basically 2 years in Varanasi, and he came here and even taught in one of the Sanskrit colleges. As he was here in India, in Varanasi, he tried to bring out a translation of the Brihad Samhita. And the problem that he faced is stated in his introduction. You see, I am sorry to say that the copies of Utpala's commentary are in such a condition that I have often been obliged to recur to conjectures. Means I am unable to decipher what exactly was there. Most of them, however being obvious, some may be obvious, And the uncertainty about true reading materially affects the translation. He was basically engaging himself in producing a translation of this Brihat Samhita, and the want of any explanation on the part of Utpala does so in no less degree. So this is basically the codices that he had did not give him the right text. I mean, this he is saying 160 years back. Now our Pandit Sudhakara Dwivedi, who was a remarkable scholar, so who has written several commentaries in Sanskrit for various astronomical and mathematical works and independent works also. So he says, Etasyaha ekasyaiva adhyayasya samshodhane yavan parishramaha tad dashamamshenaiva shramena sukhena maya samagra bharat samhitayaha nutana tika kartum shakyate. So he says, so basically I think he means the second chapter, where the Utpala's commentary is huge and Parashara's quotations are also done. So he says, the time that I have spent in trying to decipher what is stated in the commentary with various manuscripts, in 1/10 of it I would have written the commentary on my own for the entire work. Okay? That is what he says. See, Dashamamsha means 1/10 of that. I would have completed the commentary for all the 100 chapters. I mean, that is what he is saying. So the point I wanted to convey is, basically, so this is a very, very painstaking work, and this is very, very essential, because some of the things which have been, so Srinivas knows, so when we discuss some of these texts, so we find that there is a certain problem here. So for that, with the available manuscripts that are still surviving, at least some effort has to be launched to ensure that we have the proper text that is available with us. So let alone serious scholarship in that, but getting the text reconstructed itself is a huge task. Some efforts have been put by some people, and what has happened is the printed versions have been taken to digital versions, and the digital versions have far more errors than the printed versions. So that also has not been fixed. See, for instance, you may be knowing, so this Shabda Kalpadruma is a very important work. Vachaspatyam is a very important work. These are all considered as thesaurus. And they have been put into digital form almost 25 years, 30 years back. But then if you look at them, so there are plenty of errors. So it requires enormous amount of time, energy and dedication and scholarship for us to get these classic works at least in error-free form. So this is all I wanted to convey. Thank you very much. I have to go for some other meeting.